My way, or the highway, and in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gallop Out. Joined today with Mikey P from In the Money. Jackson unavailable as he's got some big things in the works, so we decided to give him the day off. But Mikey, you and I have a fun pick three to go through at Oaklawn Park. It's not their new $3 late pick three, but it is a pick three containing a competitive maiden stakes in the middle, maiden race in the middle, and then two graded stakes, including the feature race, the Grade 1 Apple Blossom. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Exciting card. I thought you were supposed to change a picture. What happened there? Were you supposed to change that picture before you came in?
What
with
picture?
Mixto.
Oh, yeah, I was. You know, I'll change it by the Derby.
Okay.
I'll throw Pavlovian up there, but I've been forgetting to change that. So maybe I'll set a little reminder and I'll change Mixto out of the intro video. Thought it was a fun race, fun card that we're going to dive into, though. How's your week going, Mikey? Obviously, we ramp up with more of these In the Money shows as the week kind of goes on.
Yeah, I can't complain. Been busy, working hard, but the racing, the beat goes on. Excited for Keeneland and Keeneland to be going. We had a nice weekend last weekend, and it's just going to keep rolling on. Keeneland's my favorite racetrack, so it's hard for me not to be excited. And then we got less than 4 weeks to the Derby, so I know we're going to be hanging out there. I can't wait to get back together with you guys. There's nothing like it. I can't recommend it enough. If you can get to the Derby, feel free to get yourself there because I think you'd want to go back every year like I do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Jackson Muniz also going to be out there. Him and I first time out there, so it's going to be a very fun long weekend. We'll get out there Derby day and we'll stay through the weekend. So I'm excited for it. But I'm also excited for this Oaklawn card. 3 races to go through, but we're going to start with the Grade 3 Count Fleet Stakes. I'll throw the picks up on the screen here in just a second as we're going to go through. It's 6 furlongs, of course, on their main track, 4-year-olds and upward. Mikey, you and I share the same opinion in the 7 on top, along with the 5 in second. The 7 feels like a morning line that we're both dreaming to get. It is Tejano Twist, fresh off the Grade 3 Whitmore victory. Mikey, any chance we get 6-1 on this runner?
I don't think so, but I think you could get somewhere above 3-1 on him, just because there's other horses that are going to take money in this race. Roll on Big Joe is a very popular horse. He takes a lot of money. Booth is another horse that certainly takes money for Steve Asmussen. He's in the race. And then Maximum Bourbon shows up from the fairgrounds coming out of a really quick race. I mean, that's a big 103 buyer shows on the page there. Now, he's got to go without Lasix. How much does he get bet in here? I'd love to get 6. You're not going to get 6, though. But I could see somewhere between 3 and 4.
I could, too. I would be jumping all over this horse at 4-1, 5-2, or 7-2 rather. I think is much more in the realm of possibility. Same with that 3-1. But this horse has such a nice closing turn of foot and always runs his race. He is obviously a 7-year-old gelding, so we kind of know what he is, but he's still capable of running those upper 90 buyer speed figures, as we saw 3 back in the King Cotton Stakes, where he ran a 99, just losing to Roll On Big Joe, who we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second. But this is just such an honest horse, one that's a lot of fun to root for. And with a win here, he would go over the $2 million mark, not 200. That'd be insane, but he would go over the $2 million mark. With a win or maybe even a second in this race.
Yeah, in raging form. And if you look in the King Cotton, he was against the racetrack. He really, I thought he raced very, very well there on February 8th. And then he showed up in a, condition allowance race on March 1st, and he galloped. I mean, you go back and watch that replay, and there was no doubt that he was by far the best. I don't care what the number came back. I mean, he was flat out awesome, I thought, in that race. So much so that I really liked him in the Whitmore. He was a key in a really nice double that I hit that day. there was no doubt he was losing that race either. So right now, there's just no sharper horse on the grounds. He gets a setup in this race. I do think confidence is very high. And, the numbers don't say that he's better than these horses, but I think right now, given the form that he's in, I don't think the numbers matter that much. He's just, full confidence, full steam ahead. He's going to come from off the pace. He'll get his trip, and he's going to have his chance.
I agree. He's going to have his chance. We're watching the replay of that allowance optional claiming event where he was really just under a hand ride for the most of it. You can see the rider brought the crop out towards the end there, but the race was already over by that point in time. And I think those last two speed figures, I think he's very much he's very capable of running races better than that. I think that, I'm looking at the time form real quick, and it says it's a fast pace. I don't think it gives enough credit to what Tejano Twist does, though. And I love handicapping off of just the normal DRF, but I love using time form as well when I can. But I really think there's some more in the tank for Tejano Twist. And I think those last two were rather easy. You can see the horse won by open lengths in both of those events. And he's shown on more than one occasion that he's able to really gut it out and gut down to the wire. So he finished fifth in this race last year, but obviously he looks to make better on that effort here. We'll go down to the number 5 in Roll On Big Joe, coming off of 3 straight wins. But we haven't seen this horse since early February for Bob Hess, who has had this horse, stationed out here. 2 of the 3 wins for Bob Hess at this meet have come with Roll On Big Joe. What do you make of this one's chances here? Has been on top of some slow paces recently.
He has, but you look at the final numbers, he's uplining in those races. He's finishing fantastic to win and beat solid fields. He beat Tejano Twist on February 8th. Now, again, like I mentioned, the racetrack was playing to his style. But he's very gutty. He likes to be up close. He wants to kick away from horses. And he's very fast. He loves Churchill. I think he's decent over Oaklawn, but over Churchill, he is, I do think, a different level. He fits here, really, and he's going to probably be in his typical spot, right? At the outside of the 3 here, Booth. Maybe some others go in here, but Julian's a type of rider. His hands are very, very good. He can bring a horse back. He can have him up close. Whenever Julian's on the front, he's extremely dangerous because he can rate a horse better than most jockeys on earth. I do believe that. He's solid. He's my second choice, and probably one that you probably have to use in multis in here just because he's classy, he's fast, he's in good form. He's very capable without Lasix. Just too much to like versus most of these.
Yeah, he is. There's a lot to like about Roll On Big Joe. I had one question for you. Obviously, the Grade 1 Churchill Downs is coming up pretty soon at Churchill, where we've mentioned that he does a lot of his good running. That race looks like it is going to be an absolute who's who, where Roll On Big Joe could possibly, with a big effort this weekend, roll in there on the backs of 4 straight 100-buyer speed figure efforts. Do you think this would be maybe use it all as a prep race for Bob Hess, or do you think you'd anticipate him going out there kind of fully cranked for this effort, similar to how he has been in those last 3 running those triple-digit speed figures? I look at this as it might be a little bit of a stepping stone race for him.
It could be, but if you look back at his form, he's never really been quite this good. I mean, he's popped some big races in the past, and then he's kind of had some stinkers after those big efforts, but these 3 straight races have been very sharp. Maybe he's just getting better at 6 years old. So could it be a prep? Maybe, but the fact that he's running 103, 101, 100, the last 3 starts might just be too good, and it might not even matter. So this horse has kind of kicked around that listed stake level his entire career. He's a grade 3 type. He hasn't never been a grade 1 type. You seen that grade 1 Bing Crosby last year. He was 5th in there. So he's more, I don't know. I would say no. I would say they're trying here. They're trying to get every dollar they can, every win they can. So no, I'm going to say no prep. They're going for it.
I like it. Well, you can excuse the loss in the Bing Crosby. He lost to our boy Lovesick Blues.
Lovesick Blues.
We'll go down to the rail. Maximum Bourbon you have in 3rd off the back of 103 second place finish behind Built, who is a dominating winner that day. Has to go off Lasix here, but you think he can answer that question?
He's interesting. He's a 4-year-old. Steps up. This is the toughest race that he's ever seen. Built loves that racetrack at Fairgrounds. He is really very, very, very good over that track. And that was a track record that day. It's hard to really fault that. Now they're stepping up. They're showing up in a spot that we're going to see how good this horse is versus top sprinters, or at least grade 3, even maybe grade 2 type of sprinters. It's the next logical step for him. Lots of questions to answer, though. Has to come off Lasix. He's speedy. There's other speed in this race. He's never been over this racetrack, so we'll see. And he's always proven a little bit of a quality animal, right? I mean, he popped a 95 Byron and a maiden 50. I'm sure that those owners didn't expect that when they put him in there. So he's got something to prove, but he's quick. He's sharp. He's okay.
Yeah, you got to imagine Bourbon Lane Stable, who owned him on the first start, weren't happy that he popped that 95 and got claimed out of that debut effort, because he's gone on to be really well going through those conditions out at the fairgrounds. So comes in here, bit of a tough draw down at the rail, especially with that early speed and the pace scenario in here. Last horse we'll talk about, we'll go to the far outside, the number 8, Dreamin' in Blue. Rafael Bejarano aboard. This one won a restricted stakes race 2 back. Blew the doors off that field, won by 3 lengths, came right back in an optional claiming event, trained by Randy Morris here. This is one that I thought just also the pace kind of set up and seems to be in the best form of his career. He's kind of paired up those top buyer speed figures, which you like to see, and he's clearly a horse that thrives here at Oaklawn. His 3 best races have all come going this distance, and 2 have all come over this racetrack. So he's one I didn't want to leave off my tickets, although I'm probably going to be pressing up some Tejano Twist for more than the fact that he's just a cool racehorse. I do think he's the best closer in a race like this, even though Dreamin' in Blue has come from off the pace pretty nicely in his last couple.
Yeah, he's another 4-year-old, and they got a little Derby fever last year after the maiden win. They showed up in the Rebel. He was sub 20 to 1 in there, and he just didn't want to go that far. He's been sprinting ever since, and he's sprinting very well, especially over this track. A couple wins recently with nice figures. He doesn't need Lasix. He's proven that. He's a closer in a race filled with speed. So there's things to like with him. He's 8 to 1 morning line. I think the ceiling for him might be second or third. For him to beat these horses, that would be quite the feat. He would need an extreme setup and maybe a couple of them not to fire their shot. But could I see him finishing third, beating some tired ones? Sure. Can he beat the 1? I think so. There's things to like, especially underneath with him.
Yeah, some things to like about Dreamin' in Blue, but a lot to like about Tejano Twist and Roll On Big Joe. The top picks for Mikey and myself. Recapping the top picks for race number 8, the grade 3 fleet, Count Fleet. I'm going 7-5-8. Mikey going 7-5-1. Race number 9, a competitive maiden event, also going the 6 furlongs. This one's for the boys. Mikey, you are going 9-7-2. I am going 7-9-8. We'll start with you. We'll start with the number 9 with Munning's Challenge, a very deserving favorite here. Goes kind of from the inside all the way out to the outside now. Second-time starter for Brad Cox.
Yeah, second time. Raced very well first time out. Speed, he went sub 22, which is very quick over this track. 22, 44. And it just ended up second there. Now he's got a perfect post. He's facing a bunch of inexperienced foes here. I looked at the workouts on all of these horses, and I wasn't necessarily impressed with anything. That doesn't mean anything, but the fact that this guy has proven himself, he's in the right spot. He's going to be short, but it's just not one that I'd particularly want to oppose in this race, especially, these Brad Coxes have been improving second off the bench. Hard to fault this one.
Yeah, very hard to fault. If I was playing in any sort of tournament at Oaklawn, I think this is a good place to kind of, narrow down and a good place to maybe, shove again, depending on the price, because I don't know that we'll get that 6-5 morning line. But if there is a horse I think is going to take some money, maybe into the teeth of that 9, it's the number 7 Extremist. And I don't say that because this horse has some flashy works. I say this because the horse is a half to Jackie's Warrior. And I think the word might be out a little bit on that pedigree note for this Steve Asmussen trainee, who of course trained the half brother, the multi-million-dollar earner of Jackie's Warrior, who is an incredible sprinter. I wonder if some of that sprint pedigree came from the sire, though, as this one now by Quality Road maybe wants to go a little bit longer. Those drills certainly don't jump off the page at me, but Steve Asmussen has been white hot the last couple weeks, so I don't want to discount anything that he's throwing out there. Obviously, Jackie's Warrior began the career 4-4. That might be a bit of an outlier in terms of the breeding for this family, but even so, the dam ran well to start her career. So this is one I wanted to throw in, maybe at a bit of a price, a bit of an alternative to go with the number 9 Munning's Challenge. But I do acknowledge that the 9 is far and away the horse to beat in a spot like this. But you clearly give the 7 a look as well, as you pick this horse in second.
Yeah, it's the pedigree does stick out to me. This barn Had a horse last week, I believe, working in Houston that showed up here, a first timer that ended up popping first time out around, I think 9-2 was the price. It seems like Asmussen has really gotten hot these past couple weeks at Oaklawn. And if you can watch the Churchill work on this one, and it was solid enough. This horse looks to have a little bit of talent. I do think the price is definitely going to come down off that 10-1 for sure. We'll see how much the 9 gets bet in this race. I do think that the board will tell some tales here. I do think that we'll be able to see this one in the paddock also. Now, when you're playing pick threes, keep it on doubles, and you can see the money this horse is taking in some of those multi-race pools. So that's one thing that I would look for some signal. But that this is one of those bad morning lines that kind of finds a lot of extra money because Ray Charles can see this one.
I love it. Ray Charles could see this one coming from a while away. You're not going to get 10-1 on Extremist just because of that breeding there. One more I'll talk about before I throw it back out to you, Mikey. The number 8 Titan King. This one's a half to another nice multi-time winner in David of Athens, who you can see in the bottom line there. Broke his maiden on debut and also went on to win a grade 3 stakes. But Titan King, I thought was a little bit interesting for sure in here. I think the works are a little bit sharper. I was only able to catch one or two of them through Oaklawn's workout page, and just from what I saw, I think this horse definitely has a little bit more early speed to him than the number 7 Extremist. Mm-hmm. I know Ron Moquette maybe not the best with these first-time starters. He's just won for his last 45, but I do think this is one that has a little bit of promise. So I obviously horse to beat, number 9 Munnings Challenge once again, but I do think some logical alternatives would be the 7 and the 8. 7 being Extremist, the 8 being Titan King. And you think there's one more alternative to go with in here. It's the number 2 Hillbilly Daydream at 20-1 getting the blinkers on.
Yeah, and it's the second time starter in a race filled with a bunch of first timers. There's changes. They're adding blinkers here. This one got off to a poor start first time out. You can excuse any first start for any horse, especially when they've had trouble. Now, this horse didn't take any money first time out, but raced against the favorite in there. It was passing horses late, albeit only one, but I'm okay with that. So this horse is going to take a nickel of money. I'm not sure he can win, but given the choice of all these firsters that I really was not impressed with any of the works, I'll try a horse that has had some trouble, has had a start under the belt, and it's going to be a big price. So we'll throw the 2 in for third.
I like it for a very consistent trainer in Thomas Vance. Walter De La Cruz sticks aboard for the second career starter. And yeah, you can absolutely excuse any first-time starter effort because they can often get so much out of that debut race and build upon that. We'll wrap up race number 9. I'm going 7-9-8. Mikey going 9-7-2. Now on to the feature event. Race number 10, mile and a 16th. It's for the fillies and mares. It's the Apple Blossom. The grade 1 Apple Blossom, I should say. The return of Nitrogen. We'll see if we're going with him and we're with her and we are not. I'm going 8-5-2. Mikey's going at 2-3-1. Mikey, let's start the conversation with Nitrogen. You picked this horse in third. I don't have this horse anywhere in my top 3. Obviously, very competitive running of the Apple Blossom. That last race in the Azeri left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. What were your thoughts?
I thought she was just okay. She loomed large at the top of the stretch, but she got her doors blown off, period. And I do think that maybe when Majestic Oops went by, she kind of sulked a little bit. Like it seemed to me anyway. Maybe it was a sloppy track. It was quite sloppy that day. That might have moved Majestic Oops up, maybe moved Nitrogen down. But remember that day at Saratoga when the track was horrible on June the 7th? She galloped. Now, it was a 3-horse race. So I don't know. I don't know what it was here, but this wasn't the same Nitrogen that was second in the distaff, that was, getting in dogfights in the Spinster, that won the Alabama. And maybe this is just her ceiling. Maybe she's a better turf horse, but they keep picking off these huge dirt races. I'd like to see her get back to the grass, and maybe Cassie will. But the Apple Blossom's $1.3 million purse, and she's going to be probably, 7-5, 8-5 in this race. So I don't know. I mean, she's third back. She has a little bit of an excuse last time as far as the racetrack. But again, Majestic Oops just was much, much better on that day last time. Now we'll see if she can build on that, or if Nitrogen can turn the tables.
I agree, because right here, the jockey just kind of started riding and right there just got passed by Majestic Oops. Mm-hmm. just didn't quite go on and fight back. She did for a little bit, to her credit, but I was kind of with you. I was hoping we would see her this Saturday in the Jenny Wiley, maybe give the turf a try again now that she's among those older fillies and mares. Would have loved to see that, but I understand why you're sticking on the dirt, because that's kind of where all the money is, and she's never really run a bad race. The worst she's run on dirt is a 91, and for the fillies and mares, that's a phenomenal number. So I get why they got to stick with it. Maybe it was the sloppy track. Maybe she was just a little bit more tired after the Bayakoa. I don't know. But she does come here third up, to your point, and she's going to be a decisive favorite in probably every horizontal wager and certainly in the win pool. Just one I thought Majestic Oops kind of had her number last time. Maybe there's some others that we could go with. You're going to go right to the outside, going right back with the upsetter last time in Majestic Oops. Dan Ward, Francisco Arrieta, you think they can team up for 2 straight upsets on this filly?
Yeah, now the price is gone, right? You're not going to get 9-1 this time. She seems to like this racetrack, though. She has 4 wins, 2 seconds over it. I thought she was fantastic last time, really. I mean, she was much, much the best in that race, and that was no fluke. She was legitimate there. I do think that she's going to get a very similar setup versus very similar horses. Now, the price is going to probably be cut in half, but I'm okay with that, because if she repeats that race, I think that she's a huge player again in here, and she might even improve. I mean, she's a 6-year-old mare. She's always liked the racetrack. She always fires her shot. There's just things to like, and maybe the slot moved her up. She's certainly 3 for 5 over a wet track, but a similar efforts. I do think she plays extremely well, and yeah, you're going to get 5-1. She's going to play well on Maltese, though. That's the key. If you can beat Nitrogen out of the Maltese here, you're going to get paid, because a lot of people are going to go back to her.
That's true. She's probably going to be a very heavy lean in those multis. And I wonder with Munning's Challenge also being in here, with that being a heavy lean, I wonder who people are going to trust more. I think people are going to trust Nitrogen more, but that number does stand out in the previous race, in the maiden race. But I still think either way, you beat Nitrogen in those horizontals and you are going to get paid. I ended up going with the number 8, Claret Beret, for Safi Joseph. Kind of a new face in here, but seems to be rounding into some good form. Last time, that was third up in the Royal Delta, but got back out to 2 turns where she's done some of her best running, and I really like the way she finished that race and drew off. I kind of wanted to go with the new face in here. I like Majestic Oops. I picked the horse in third. I thought that was a really strong race last time. And then obviously I've said I'm kind of trying to pick against Nitrogen here. I think Claret Beret is kind of showing a little bit of a step forward, or at least a progression towards that in her 5-year-old season to kind of start things off here. If she can get back to how she ran in the Chicago and the handicap race at Gulfstream towards the middle of last year, I think that puts her well in the mix here. Obviously, those were coming around 1 turn. This is going to be a 2-turn effort, but I mentioned I like the way that she finished off that race last time. I should get every bit of 8-1, and Safi Joseph has sent a really strong contingent out here to Oaklawn Park. So I do think this is one I want to give a look to. I want some off the pace types, Mikey. We haven't really talked about the pace too much, but it appears that there's going to be a substantial pace. I don't know about a hot pace, but certainly I think there's a few horses that want the front end in here. What did you think?
I'm not sure. I do think it's a little murky, right? I mean, the 6 wants to go, the 7 wants to go. I do think the 9 wants to go, and where will Nitrogen be? She's typically close to the pace also. So yeah, I would agree that the pace will be fair. It's not, I don't know if it's blazing, but it will be fair enough. And it's going to set up for horses that, could be coming off of it a little bit. I do think that some of the stalker types might have an advantage over the deep closers. That's remains to be seen. If the 6 and 7 light it up front, then all bets are off because they are quick. There's enough pace in here that it doesn't make me worry about it.
Yeah, no doubt. You're going to go with the 3, a horse that I gave a strong look to and regaled, Whitworth Beckman, and Joe Ramos teaming up here. Nice second in the Azeri, coming from way out of it on a pace that didn't really fall apart all that much, given the 2 winners were certainly from, or the winner and the second place finisher were from off of it. Third place finisher, I should say, were from just off of it. That was a nice close last time. I think it'd certainly take a step up. I just wonder if maybe she's a little bit better in the slop.
Could be. She has 2 wins and 4 starts over the wet track. She's just a runner. She really likes to, I do think, finish up. I didn't mind her in the Breeders' Cup, and she was completely against that racetrack. Ended up third at 30-1, where Scylla and Nitrogen were hugging the rail the entire track, the entire race. This one, had the outside post and made a big 5-wide sweeping move. One of the few horses that did over that weekend. So I do upgrade that. Now, the Churchill race, maybe she was a little bit over the top. I mean, these big closers, when pace doesn't set up for them, it's tricky, right? They can, they end up fast closing seconds, thirds, fourths, and things, and they don't get their trip. Last time I thought she was excellent. Now that the slop could have moved her up, but she came back at 5. She fired a nice shot. She beat Nitrogen, so she's back in here and is likely going to be favored again. Why not her? She's a horse that I've always liked, and the 3-1, I'm not sure about that. I think that she never takes money, right? If you look at her form, I don't see one time that she's been favored. So she's not going to be 3-1 in here. She'll be more than that. She'll be above 5, in my opinion.
I would agree. I think 9-2, 5-1 is going to be around where she falls. I could easily see her maybe a couple ticks above that. Just because, you mentioned she's not one that ever really takes any money. Another one that I know isn't going to take any money and certainly has to take a step up is number 5, Almond Joy, coming in from the West Coast. Last ran 3rd in the Beholder Mile, a mile behind Splendora, but that was a really slow pace, and they kind of just ran away with it on the front end. And we know the kind of horse Splendora is. So I thought Almond Joy was a little bit interesting. I know the part of the ownership group, and they sent her out here because she had such a strong work on April the 3rd and had been working so sharply leading up to it that they thought, like, hey, she's going good right now. Let's go take a shot. Let's see if we can, shock the world a little bit. She got the job done in the Grade 3 Torrey Pines. Obviously, she's going to have to run much, much better than that, but she did improve in that 3rd start off the bench in the Raven run last year when running 4th by a couple lengths behind Kappa Kappa and some others. I thought Almond Joy could build off that debut race, and I think there's a lot more pace in here, and I think maybe the best is yet to come for this 4-year-old filly. So I want to take a bit of a shot here. So I'm going to go 8-5, a little bit of the 2 as well. Regaled is pretty interesting to me. I'm curious kind of what the price is going to be on the win end come post time, but probably one I would use in my horizontals just because I'm going to be trying to go a little bit deeper to beat the heavy favorite in Nitrogen.
It's a great race. I'm very interested to see it. I do think that we're going to learn a lot about Nitrogen in this race and probably what the campaign is going for the rest of the year. If she bounces back, gallops in here, I'm sure that they'll be pointing to dirt races all summer long. If maybe she falters again, maybe it's back to the grass, and then we'll see what the rest of the summer brings.
It'll be exciting to see what happens in the Grade 1 Apple Blossom this Saturday. Mikey, thanks for joining me. That was a fun pick 3 to go through. Very competitive races, I thought, and some favorites to beat, some favorites to lean on, and good luck if you're playing. We will see you probably later this week with some In the Money Plus and Inner Circle shows here on the In the Money Media Network. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.